Welcome to the Fairy Frequency Channel. Today I'm going to read to you from Shambhala The Sacred Path of the Warrior by Chogyam Trungpa. If you've missed any of the previous chapters to this wonderful little metaphysical book, you can find them in our original playlist called Shambhala The Sacred Path of the Warrior. Today's chapter is chapter 16, which is called Sacred World. When human beings lose their connection to nature, to heaven and earth, then they do not know how to nurture their environment or how to rule their world, which is saying the same thing. Human beings destroy their ecology at the same time that they destroy one another. From that perspective, healing our society goes hand in hand with healing our personal, elemental connection with the phenomenal world. Arrogance and habitual patterns, as we discussed in the last two chapters, are obstacles to experiencing Drala. In order to discover magic in the world, we have to overcome the individual neurosis and self-centered attitudes that prevent us from experiencing greater vision beyond ourselves. By obscuring our vision, they also prevent us from uplifting ourselves so that we can extend ourselves to help others. Some people feel that the world's problems are so pressing that social and political action should take precedence over individual development. They may feel that they should sacrifice their own needs completely in order to work for a larger cause. In its extreme form, this kind of thinking justifies individual neurosis and aggression as purely a product of a troubled society, so that people feel they can hold on to their neurosis and even use their aggression to try to effect change. According to the Shambhala teachings, however, we have to recognize that our individual experience of sanity is inherently linked to our vision for a good human society. So we have to take things one step at a time. If we try to solve society's problems without overcoming the confusion and aggression in our own state of mind, then our efforts will only contribute to the basic problems instead of solving them. That is why the individual journey of warriorship must be undertaken before we can address the larger issue of how to help this world. Still, it would be extremely unfortunate if Shambhala vision were taken as purely another attempt to build ourselves up while ignoring our responsibilities to others. The point of warriorship is to become a gentle and tamed human being who can make a genuine contribution to this world. The warrior's journey is based on discovering what is intrinsically good about human existence and how to share that basic goodness with others. There is a natural order and harmony to this world which we can discover, but we cannot just study that order scientifically or measure it mathematically. We have to feel it in our bones, in our hearts, in our minds. If we are thoroughly trained in the disciplines of warriorship, then by invoking the Drala principle, we can reawaken that intimate connection to reality that provides the ground to work with others in a genuine and gentle fashion. When you invoke Drala, you begin to experience basic goodness reflected everywhere, in yourself, in others, and in the entire world. You are not being blind to the setting sun or degraded aspects of existence. In fact, you see them very precisely because you are so alert. But you also see that every aspect of life has the potential of being upgraded, that there is the potential for sacredness in every situation. So you begin to view the universe as a sacred world. The sacred world is that which exists spontaneously, naturally, in the phenomenal world. When you have gold, that gold can be formed into different shapes, both beautiful and grotesque, but it still remains 24-karat gold. A diamond may be worn by the most degraded person, but it still remains a diamond. Similarly, the idea of a sacred world is that although you see the confusion and problems that fill the world, you also see that phenomenal existence is constantly being influenced by the vision of the great eastern sun. In fact, we could say that it takes on the qualities of the great eastern sun. The sacred world is great because of its primordial quality. That is, Sacredness goes back and back through history to prehistory to history, before thought, before mind, and ever thought of anything at all. So experiencing the greatness of the sacred world is recognizing the existence of what vast and primordial wisdom, which is reflected throughout the phenomena. This wisdom is old and young at the same time, and it is never tarnished or diminished by the relative problems in the world. The sacred world is connected with the East because there are always possibilities of vision in this world. East represents the dawn of wakefulness, the horizon of human consciousness, where vision is constantly arising. Wherever you are, when you open your eyes, you always look ahead, to the East. You always have possibilities of wakeful vision, even in the most degraded or confused situations. Finally, the sacred world is lighted by the sun, which is the principle of never-ending brilliance and radiance. The sun is also connected with seeing self-existing possibilities of virtue and richness in the world. Normally, when you see a brilliant light, the light comes from a source of energy. The brightness of a candle depends on how much wax surrounds it and the thickness of the wick. The brightness of a light bulb depends on the electric current running through it. But the great eastern sun is eternally blazing. It has no need of fuel. There actually is greater luminosity that occurs without fuel, without even a pilot light. Seeing the sacred world is witnessing the greater vision, which is there all the time. The experience of sacred world begins to show you how you are woven together with the richness and brilliance of the phenomenal world. You are a natural part of that world, and you begin to see the possibilities of natural hierarchy or natural order, which could provide the model for how to conduct your life. Ordinarily, hierarchy is regarded in the negative sense as a ladder or a vertical power structure, with power concentrated at the top. If you are on the bottom rung of the ladder, then you feel oppressed by what is above you, and you try to abolish it. Or you try to climb higher on the ladder, but for the warrior, discovering hierarchy is seeing the great eastern sun reflected everywhere in everything. You see possibilities of order in the world that are not based on struggle and aggression. In other words, you perceive a way to be in harmony with the phenomenal world that is neither static nor repressive. So the understanding of hierarchy manifests as a sense of natural decorum, or knowing how to behave. That is, you see how to be naturally in this world because you experience dignity and elegance that do not have to be cultivated. The warrior's decorum is the natural togetherness and calm, which comes from a feeling of being in harmony with yourself and with the environment. You don't have to try to fit yourself into situations, but situations fit naturally. When you achieve this level of decorum, then you can abandon the final vestiges of the giant backpack of habitual patterns that you have been carrying for so long to protect yourself from nature. You can appreciate nature's own qualities, and you see that you do not need your bag of ego-centered tricks. You realize that you can live with nature as it is and as you are. You feel a sense of ease or looseness. You feel at home in your world. In that way, the invocation of the Drala principle allows us to live in harmony with the elemental quality of reality. The modern approach often seems to be one of trying to conquer the elements. There is central heating to conquer winter's cold and air conditioning to conquer summer's heat. When there is drought or flooding or a hurricane, it is seen as a battle with the elements, as an uncomfortable reminder of their strength. The warrior's approach is that rather than trying to overcome the raw elements of existence, one should respect their power and their order as a guide to human conduct. In the ancient philosophies of both China and Japan, the three principles of heaven, earth, and man expressed this view of how human life and society could be integrated with the order of the natural world. These principles are based on the ancient understanding of natural hierarchy. I have found that in presenting the discipline of warriorship, The principles of heaven, earth, and man are very helpful in describing how the warrior should take his seat in the sacred world. Although politically and socially our values are quite different from those of imperial China and Japan, it is still possible to appreciate the basic wisdom contained in these principles of natural order. Heaven, earth, and man can be seen literally as the sky above, the earth below, and human beings standing or sitting between the two. Unfortunately, the use of man here, rather than human being, may have a limiting connotation for some readers. By man, in this case, we simply mean anthropomorphic existence, human existence, not man as opposed to woman. Traditionally, heaven is the realm of the gods, the most sacred space. So symbolically, the principle of heaven represents any lofty ideal or experience of vastness and sacredness. The grandeur and vision of heaven are what inspire human greatness and creativity. Earth, on the other hand, symbolizes practicality and receptivity. It is the ground that supports and promotes life. Earth may seem solid and stubborn, but earth can be penetrated and worked on. Earth can be cultivated. The proper relationship between heaven and earth is what makes the earth principle pliable. You might think of the space of heaven as very dry and conceptual, but warmth and love also come from heaven. Heaven is the source of the rain that falls on the earth, so heaven has a sympathetic connection with earth. When the connection is made, then the earth begins to yield. It becomes gentle and soft and pliable, so that greenery can grow on it, and man can cultivate it. And then there is the man principle, which is connected with simplicity, or living in harmony and with heaven and earth. When human beings combine the freedom of heaven with the practicality of earth, they can live in a good human society with one another. Traditionally, it is said that when human beings live in harmony with the principles of heaven and earth, then the four seasons and the elements of the world will also work together harmoniously. Then there is no fear, and human beings begin to join in, as they deserve, in living in this world. They have heaven above and earth below, and they appreciate the trees and the greenery and so on. They begin to appreciate all this. But if human beings violate their connection or lose their trust in heaven and earth, then there will be social chaos and natural disasters. In Chinese, the characters for the ruler or king is a vertical line joining three horizontal lines, which represents heaven, earth, and man. This means that the king has the power to join heaven and earth in a good human society. Traditionally, if there was plenty of rainfall and crops and vegetation flourished, then this indicated that the king was genuine, that he truly joined heaven and earth. But when there was drought and starvation or natural catastrophes, such as flooding and earthquakes, then the power of the king was in doubt. The idea that harmony in nature is linked to harmony in human affairs is not purely an Oriental concept. For example, there are many stories in the Bible, such as the story of King David, that portray the conflict between heaven and earth and the doubt that it raises about the king. If we apply the perspective of heaven, earth, and man to the situation in the world today, we begin to see that there is a connection between the social and the natural or environmental problems that we are facing. When human beings lose their connection to nature, to heaven and earth, then they do not know how to nurture their environment or how to rule their world, which is saying the same thing. Human beings destroy their ecology at the same time that they destroy one another. From that perspective, healing our society goes hand in hand with healing our personal, elemental connection with the phenomenal world. When human beings have no sense of living with a wide open sky above and a lush green earth below, then it becomes very difficult for them to expand their vision. When we feel that heaven is an iron lid and the earth is a parched desert, then we want to hide away rather than extending ourselves to help others. Shambhala vision does not reject technology or simplistically advocate going back to nature, but within the world that we live in, there is room to relax and appreciate ourselves and our heaven and our earth. We can afford to love ourselves, and we can afford to raise our head and shoulders to see the bright sun shining in the sky. The challenge of warriorship is to live fully in the world as it is and to find within this world, with all of its paradoxes, the essence of nowness. If we open our eyes, if we open our minds, if we open our hearts, we will find that this world is a magical place. It is not magical because it tricks us or changes unexpectedly into something else, but it is magical because it can be so vividly, so brilliantly. However, the discovery of that magic can happen only when we transcend our embarrassment about being alive, when we have the bravery to proclaim the goodness and dignity of human life without either hesitation or arrogance. Then magic, or drala, can descend into our existence. The world is filled with power and wisdom, which we can have, so to speak. In some sense, we have them already. By invoking the drala principle, we have possibilities of experiencing the sacred world, a world which has self-existing richness and brilliance, and beyond that, possibilities of natural hierarchy and natural order. That order includes all the aspects of life, including those that are ugly and bitter and sad, but even those qualities are part of the rich fabric of existence that can be woven into our being. In fact, we are woven already into that fabric, whether we like it or not. Recognizing that link is both powerful and auspicious. It allows us to stop complaining about and fighting with our world. Instead, we can begin to celebrate and promote the sacredness of the world. By following the way of the warrior, it is possible to expand our vision and give fearlessly to others. In that way, we have possibilities of effecting fundamental change. We cannot change the way the world is, but by opening ourselves to the world as it is, we may find that gentleness, decency, and bravery are available, not only to us, but to all human beings. And that is the end of chapter 16. Thank you for joining us, folks. If you have missed any of the previous chapters to this amazing little metaphysical book, please look in our original playlist titled Shambhala, The Sacred Path of the Warrior. Thanks again for joining us today. You all have a beautiful Friday. We'll see you soon.